What's up, everyone? Hope everybody's having a great day. Today, we need to talk about something that hasn't gotten enough attention in the Greg Biffle tragedy. Something that might explain why experienced pilots found themselves in an impossible situation. We're talking about the fact that the Citation II they were flying was designed in 1981, 45 years ago, before computers controlled engines, before automated systems could save you from bad situations, before technology could compensate for human limitations during emergencies. This aircraft was flying with essentially the same technology it had when Reagan was president. And folks, when you understand the massive technology gap between this aircraft and modern jets, you start to understand why things went so wrong so fast. Let me paint you a picture of what aviation looked like in 1981. The space shuttle had just launched for the first time, personal computers were a novelty, the internet didn't exist, cell phones were the size of bricks, and aircraft engines were controlled by cables, pulleys, and mechanical linkages. No computers, no digital controls, no automated protections, just pure mechanical systems that required constant human management. That's the world the Citation II was born into. And while aviation has revolutionized since then, this particular aircraft was still operating with that original technology. The big difference here, and I mean the game-changing difference, is something called FADEC, Full Authority Digital Engine Control. Modern jets have it, the Citation II doesn't. And if you don't understand what FADEC does, let me break it down for you because this is crucial to understanding what happened. FADEC is basically a computer that controls your engines. It manages fuel flow, it prevents over temperature, it optimizes performance, it protects the engine from damage, and most importantly, during an emergency, it automatically compensates for failures. It's like having a genius engineer sitting in your engine constantly making micro adjustments to keep everything running perfectly. Without FADEC, which the Citation II doesn't have, all of that management falls on the pilots. Every single adjustment, every power setting, every temperature monitoring, every performance calculation, it's all manual. And in normal operations, that's fine. Pilots are trained for it, they can handle it. But when something goes wrong, when you've got what they called a rough engine, when you're trying to return to an airport in marginal weather, when you're task saturated and running out of altitude, suddenly that lack of automation becomes a massive liability. Because now you're trying to manually manage failing systems while also flying the airplane, navigating weather, and running emergency checklists. Dan Grider, who knows these citations inside and out, called it an underpowered pig. That's not just colorful language, that's describing a fundamental limitation of this 1980s design. The engines on the Citation II produce about 2,900 pounds of thrust each. That sounds like a lot, but for an aircraft that can weigh up to 13,300 pounds at maximum takeoff weight, it's really not. Modern jets of similar size have engines producing 50% more thrust. They have better thrust-to-weight ratios. They have more margin for error. When you lose an engine in a modern jet with FADEC, the remaining engine automatically goes to maximum continuous thrust. The computer optimizes everything to give you the best possible performance. In the Citation II, when you lose an engine, you have to manually manage the remaining engine. You have to watch temperatures. You have to adjust thrust. You have to be careful not to over-torque or over-temp because there's no computer to stop you from destroying the good engine while trying to save the airplane. And all of this while you're dealing with asymmetric thrust that's trying to yaw the aircraft while you're losing altitude, while you're trying to navigate back to the airport. It's like trying to juggle while riding a unicycle on a tightrope during an earthquake. Now let's talk about Dennis Dutton's background because this is where the technology gap becomes even more critical. Dennis flew for Delta Airlines. He flew big Boeings, 737s, 757s, 767s. These are modern aircraft with every technological advantage you can imagine. Dual FADEC systems, flight envelope protection, auto throttles that manage power for you, flight management systems that calculate everything. If you have an engine failure in a modern Boeing, the airplane basically handles it for you. The FADEC manages the good engine. The flight computer calculates your drift down altitude. The autopilot maintains control. Your job as pilot is to run the checklist and decide where to land. But suddenly Dennis is in this 45-year-old citation with none of those protections. No FADEC, no flight envelope protection, no auto throttles. It's like going from driving a 2025 Tesla with all the driver aids to suddenly driving a 1981 pickup truck with manual everything. The basic principles are the same, but the workload is completely different. The margin for error is completely different. The technology that you've gotten used to relying on simply doesn't exist. Here's something that really drives home the technology gap. In a modern jet with FADEC, if you firewall the throttles, push them full forward, the computer won't let you overboost the engines. It won't let you exceed temperature limits. It won't let you destroy the engines, even if you're trying to. It protects you from yourself during high-stress situations. In the Citation 2, there's no such protection. If you push the throttles too far forward in desperation, you can over-torque the engines, you can exceed temperature limits, you can literally destroy your remaining good engine trying to get more power. The aircraft won't stop you. There's no computer saying, whoa, that's too much. It's all on you to manage within limits while dealing with an emergency. The Citation 2 also lacks what we call engine trend monitoring. Modern jets constantly monitor engine parameters and predict failures before they happen. They can tell you, hey, this engine is starting to show signs of distress. Maybe you should think about landing soon. The Citation 2 has basic engine instruments: oil pressure, temperature, RPM, but no predictive capability, no trend analysis, no early warning system. When something goes wrong, it goes wrong suddenly with little warning. That rough engine they reported could have been developing for minutes with no indication until it became obvious. Let's talk about single-engine performance, because this is where that 1980s design really shows its age. The Citation 2's single-engine service ceiling, meaning how high it can maintain level flight on one engine, is only about 15,000 feet under ideal conditions. But that's at light weight. At maximum weight, which they apparently were, it's much lower, maybe 10,000 feet, maybe less. And that's in perfect conditions. Add in the drag from an open baggage door if that's what happened, add in gear down and flaps extended, suddenly you're not climbing at all, you're descending. And there's nothing you can do about it because the remaining engine simply doesn't have enough power. Modern jets have so much more thrust available that single-engine operations are almost routine. Lose an engine in a modern Gulfstream or Challenger, and you might not even descend. You just continue to your destination at a slightly lower altitude. But in the Citation 2, losing an engine is a genuine emergency that requires immediate action and perfect execution. There's no margin for error, no excess thrust to save you if you configure too early, no computer to optimize performance, just you, your skills, and an underpowered engine trying to keep you in the air. Another huge technological gap is in the area of configuration warnings. Modern jets have sophisticated systems that warn you about unsafe configurations. Gear down above certain speeds? Warning. Flaps extended too early? Warning. Configuration not appropriate for phase of flight? Warning. The Citation 2 has basic warnings. Gear unsafe light, stall warning. That's about it. Nothing to tell you, hey, you're configuring too early and burning energy you can't afford to lose. Nothing to warn you that your current configuration is unsustainable. You have to know it. You have to feel it. You have to recognize it yourself. Weather radar is another area where technology has transformed aviation. Modern jets have predictive weather radar that shows you not just where weather is, but where it's going. They have terrain mapping. They have enhanced vision systems. They have synthetic vision that shows you the runway even when you can't see it. The Citation 2 has basic weather radar, if it's even working. No terrain mapping, no enhanced vision, no synthetic displays. You're flying by looking out the window and basic instruments. In marginal weather like they had that day with 1,200-foot ceilings and 5-mile visibility and drizzle, you're essentially flying partially blind. The automation gap is staggering when you really think about it. Modern jets have automated emergency descent modes. If cabin pressure is lost, the airplane will automatically descend to safe altitude. They have automatic upset recovery. If the airplane enters an unusual attitude, it will recover itself. They have envelope protection that won't let you stall or overspeed. The Citation 2 has none of that. Every single aspect of flight must be manually managed. Every emergency must be manually addressed. Every recovery must be manually executed. In high-stress situations, that lack of automation multiplies workload exponentially. Here's something else to consider. Modern jets have electronic checklists that automatically present the right checklist for the situation. Engine failure? The checklist appears on your screen. Items complete themselves as you do them. The airplane monitors compliance. In the Citation 2, you're pulling out paper checklists. You're reading them while flying. You're trying to remember where you are in the checklist while managing the emergency. It's literally 1940s technology in terms of cockpit resource management. And when you're task saturated, those paper checklists often get abandoned because there's simply no bandwidth to read and fly simultaneously. The stick shaker stall warning system in the Citation 2 is also decades behind modern technology. It's a simple system that vibrates the control yoke when you're approaching stall, but it doesn't prevent the stall. It doesn't add power. It doesn't adjust configuration. It just shakes and hopes you respond correctly. Modern jets have stick pushers that physically push the nose down to prevent stall. They have automatic thrust systems that add power. They have flight envelope protection that won't let you get near stall in the first place. The technology gap in stall protection alone could fill an entire episode. Communication systems are another area where age shows. Modern jets have data link communication. You can receive weather updates digitally. You can get automatic traffic alerts. You can even get text messages from dispatch with landing performance data. The Citation 2 has VHF radios. That's it. No data link. No digital weather updates. No automatic anything. Every piece of information must come through voice communication, which adds to workload and creates opportunities for misunderstanding, especially during high-stress situations. Think about what this technology gap meant during those critical 10 minutes. They're dealing with some kind of engine problem, maybe rough running, maybe partial failure. In a modern jet, the FADEC would be compensating automatically. The flight management system would be calculating their glide range. The synthetic vision would be showing them every runway option. Automated systems would be managing the good engine. Instead, they're manually flying, manually managing, manually calculating, all while dealing with an emergency that's getting worse by the second. The lack of automated thrust management is particularly critical. In modern jets with autothrottles, you can focus on flying while the computer manages power. It maintains your selected speed. It prevents you from getting too slow. It automatically adjusts for configuration changes. In the Citation 2, you're constantly working the throttles, watching airspeed, adjusting power. And if you get distracted, if you focus too much on navigation or configuration, your airspeed can decay without you noticing until it's too late. Modern jets also have sophisticated angle of attack indicators that show you exactly how much lift margin you have left. They have energy management displays that show if you're gaining or losing total energy. The Citation 2 has an airspeed indicator, and that's basically it for energy management. You have to mentally calculate whether your current state is sustainable. You have to feel whether you're on the front side or back side of the power curve. In an emergency with multiple distractions, those mental calculations often get overwhelmed by more immediate concerns. Let's talk about the human factors aspect of this technology gap. Pilots trained on modern aircraft develop what's called automation dependency. They get used to the airplane helping them. They get used to systems that prevent errors. They get used to having cognitive bandwidth available because the airplane is handling the mundane tasks. Then suddenly they're in an older aircraft where everything is manual, and that transition can be jarring. It's not that they can't fly without automation. It's that the workload increase is so dramatic that task saturation happens much faster than expected. The Citation II was actually advanced for 1981. It had flight directors. It had basic autopilot. It had weather radar. But compared to what Dennis was flying at Delta, it might as well have been from the Stone Age. No FADEC, no flight management system, no electronic checklists, no automated protection systems, no data link weather, no terrain warning beyond basic ground proximity. It's like asking a Formula One driver used to modern telemetry and electronic aids to suddenly race a 1980s car with manual everything. They can do it, but the margin for error shrinks dramatically. Here's what really gets me about this technology gap. We know how to prevent these kinds of accidents. The technology exists. FADEC has been around since the 1980s. Flight envelope protection has been standard on Airbus aircraft since the A320. Automated emergency systems have saved countless lives. But older aircraft like the Citation II are grandfathered in. They don't have to be retrofitted with modern safety systems. They can keep flying with their original technology until they're retired or until something goes wrong. The cost of retrofitting a Citation II with modern avionics and engine controls would exceed the value of the airplane. So owners keep flying them as is. Pilots keep training on them with their original systems. And most of the time, it's fine. The airplane is reliable, the pilots are skilled, the limitations are understood. But when something goes wrong, when you need those modern safety systems, when automation could save the day, it's simply not there. You're on your own, with technology from an era when disco was still popular. What makes this even more tragic is that Greg Biffle could afford any airplane he wanted. He could have had a modern Citation with FADEC and envelope protection and synthetic vision and all the safety systems money can buy. But he had this Citation II. Maybe because he liked it. Maybe because it served his needs. Maybe because he trusted it. We'll never know his reasoning. But we know that when things went wrong, the technology that could have helped simply wasn't there. The investigation will ultimately determine what role, if any, this technology gap played in the accident. But from my perspective, having studied aviation accidents for years, the lack of modern engine control systems certainly didn't help. When you're dealing with a rough engine in marginal weather with limited altitude, and you have to manually manage everything while also flying, navigating, and configuring, the workload can quickly become overwhelming. Add in the confusion about who was flying, who was qualified, and who was making decisions, and you have a recipe for task saturation that no amount of skill can overcome. Modern aviation technology isn't just about convenience. It's about safety margins. It's about reducing pilot workload during critical phases of flight. It's about providing protection when human performance degrades under stress. The Citation II has none of those advantages. It requires perfect human performance at all times. And when you're dealing with an emergency, perfect performance becomes nearly impossible. The technology gap between 1981 and today represents thousands of accidents analyzed, millions of flight hours studied, and countless lessons learned. All of that knowledge is built into modern aircraft systems. None of it exists in the Citation II. So when we ask how a 1981 design flaw played a role in this crash, we're really asking why we allow aircraft to operate with such outdated technology. We're asking why safety improvements aren't mandatory. We're asking why we accept grandfather clauses that exempt older aircraft from modern standards. And most importantly, we're asking whether those 10 minutes might have ended differently if that Citation had been equipped with the technology we now consider essential for safe flight. The answer isn't simple. Retrofitting is expensive. Older aircraft serve important roles. Many pilots prefer the simplicity of older systems. But when an accident like this happens, when we lose 7 people in an aircraft that lacks basic modern safety systems, we have to ask ourselves if those grandfather clauses are worth it. If allowing 45-year-old technology to carry passengers is acceptable, if the cost of upgrading is really higher than the cost of lives lost. Thanks for watching, everyone. This technology discussion might seem dry, but it's crucial to understanding why modern safety systems exist. Every automated protection, every computer-controlled system, every warning and alert was developed because someone died when it wasn't there. The Citation 2 represents aviation from a different era, an era before we learned many hard lessons, an era before technology could protect us from ourselves, and, tragically, an era that Greg Biffle and 6 others were still flying in when everything went wrong. Rest in peace to all 7 souls. May their loss inspire improvements that prevent future tragedies. We'll see you at the checkered flag.